All right, I think I'm almost ready to get started here. If you could just let me know, how's the mic audio compared to the music volume? Like, how are we doing for levels here? Music's a little loud. Okay, let me just turn that down here. Okay, is that a little bit better? That's good. All right. I doubt we're gonna get any more people before I get started, so I think I will just start now, and if anyone wanted to see what they missed, they can just go back. So I made a list of some of the animations I want to talk about. Initially, I wanted to talk about 5 of them, but going from 100 to 5 is a little difficult, so this is a list of 10, actually. And if there are any that people want specifically to be talked about, I can talk about them too. There's no real structure to what I'm doing here. It's just I wanted to celebrate hitting 100 animations, and I figured this would be a good way to get other people involved in it as well. I don't believe they're going to be in any order. Like, not chronologically, not based on how much I like it. I love all of these. I love most of my animations. There are really a couple that I'm not like super proud of, but a majority of, like a large majority of them are stuff that I'm really proud of. So they're not ranked by that in any way. But I think a good place to start off would be this one here. Let me just grab the working file for it. So this is the, I should probably grab the dates for when these animations were posted. I believe this one was May 14th. This is the Eggman's Adventure animation. So we're already starting off in kind of a weird position, because technically this one was posted the next day, not the same day. But it still didn't take me that long to make, so I think it's kind of allowed. Okay, this is cool. I've never talked to content creators before. Are you the guy who did the polygonal Aaron and Dan stuff? Yes, I do 3D Game Grumps animated. It's not all I do. I do dabble in some hand-drawn stuff as well, but I would say what I'm most known for is my 3D animations. And yeah, if you have any questions going along, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'll answer them as soon as I see it. I just wanted to confirm May 15th, which means this would have been the animation from using the audio from May 14th. So yeah, well, let me just switch over to the shaded view, and we can. It's got a lot of textures it has to grab, so that's why it's looking like this. But this is the working file for this animation. So if you're unfamiliar with how 3D software works, hello, yeah. Your connection fell apart. That's fine. You can always rewind and watch it back. Yeah, you see the textures are loading in here. This is one of the bigger animations. You can see there's a lot of stuff going on here. And that's because if we were to play it back from the view of the camera, this little box, this gray, the black outline is actually what the camera sees. Everything outside of it won't get picked up by the camera. But if I just pause the music here and hit play, you'll see what this animation is.
Do you think he busts out a cake at some point and he's like, "Bake this, bake this"?
He pulls out like a Lego manual and he's like, "Make this."
Yeah. He points to his butt and he's like, shake this, shake this, shake this. Why don't you shake this?
Puts on an episode of Star Trek TNG, and he's like, "Freak this!"
Like you can't see him very well, and he's like, opaque this.
He opens up the coffin and pulls Dracula out, and he's like, "Stake this!"
You're like really annoying him, and he's like, tension headache this.
For God's sake, this!
Time to take a coffee break this. He's like lying dead, and he's like, undertake this.
He just takes a little nap, and he's like, "Wake this!"
Oh, this is so stupid. Do you think he busts out a cake at some point, and he's like,
So a few things there. You might have noticed that there were parts that were blank. There were parts that had strange textures to them, like Aaron's shirt is normally black, but for some reason it's purple here. Same with the coffee cup in this situation. This is one of your favorite jokes. Yeah, it is a very good one. I originally made the audio for this animation when I was in a car. I was driving between cities. I wasn't driving, I was a passenger, but I had my laptop and it was running off of battery power. So I didn't have long to work on it. Therefore, the animation that I posted that day was just the first joke with Bake This. I uploaded just this clip to my YouTube channel, and then the next morning before the Game Grumps episode came out, I animated the rest of the audio. So that's why I still consider this a same day animation, because not only was it within 24 hours of that Game Grumps episode coming out, but if I hadn't been in the car, if I had access to power, I could charge my laptop, I would have been able to do this within that amount of time. Anyways, getting back to this, the reason that Aaron's shirt and the coffee cup look like this is because this is technically a new computer. And since it's a new computer, files aren't exactly where Blender expects them to be. Therefore, the textures are missing. It's not a huge problem because the animation's already done. It's been posted. If I wanted to go back and re-render some stuff, it would just be a simple matter of hopping into the shading workspace and locating the correct texture. So if I go in here, I grab Game Grumps animated, and then shirt. If I grab that texture file, there you go. Aaron's shirt is fixed, and then you just do that for the coffee cup as well. So that's all random rambling. Because I have yet to talk about the actual animation itself. This one is an interesting one. There's a lot of quote-unquote moving shots, a lot of jump cuts that take place in different scenes. And the way I achieve that is not by moving the camera and Eggman to different parts of this digital set. Because if you look, the camera actually stays in the same spot. This is the camera right here highlighted. So between scenes, the camera stays in place. It's just that the set around it switches in and out. So if I grab onto this, this is this is a set that I use extremely frequently. It's not anything specific, like it's not the Grump room. It's not any room in the office. It's just something I whipped up to look semi-decently. I do actually have an old Grump room set. The problem with it is it takes a lot of time to render in it because it's so densely populated. I went pretty all out. Like I made sure that the walls are correct. I have all their gaming consoles. I have shelves with memorabilia and all that stuff. And it looks very good, but each frame could take anywhere between like 5 and 10 seconds, which, it might not sound like a lot, but when you're rendering thousands of frames at a time, I'm not typically going that high, but even like 300 or so frames could take like an hour, and it's just like not worth it if I can get the same effect in a much more simple room. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. Had to respond to a text. So I use this simple room. I can actually explain how I made it. This right here is the brick texture on the wall. Again, it's very nondescript. It's just a generic brick texture, and then the floor is a Voronoi that I compressed down to give it this really clean, sharp ring look. And again, it's not anything specific. It's not meant to look like anything out of the Grump room. It's just something interesting to look at with the animation. So the next set is this disco floor, which I have actually used a couple more times for other animations. This turntable, quote unquote, I've used in other animations. You'll notice a trend with a lot of the stuff that I talk about. I don't think there's much that I've made that I haven't found another use in another animation. What does Voronoi mean? Did I hear you right? You did. That's not how it's spelled, but let me just go back. There's different types of procedural noise, and Voronoi is one of them. I can actually do a little demonstration. I did one in a tutorial I made and posted to Twitter. It's also on my YouTube channel. But essentially, there's different kinds of procedural noise, and Voronoi is one of them. It's very cell-like in its structure. All right, I've got to go because of school, but I hope your stream goes super well. Also, I hope you stream for long enough that I can catch you after school. It's unlikely I'll be streaming for long enough because the Game Grumps episode will be coming out in a couple hours or so, and then I'll be working on that. But you can always catch this as a VOD. You could watch it back. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer any questions in that situation, but feel free to DM me on Twitter or anything like that if you have any questions that you want specifically answered. But a Voronoi, sorry, I got distracted here. Voronoi is a type of procedural noise. So if I grab just a Voronoi node and I hook it up to base color here, you'll see it makes these very cell-like shapes. It looks like like a plant cell where you have the cell walls and then you can see the nucleus in the middle of it. If I switch over to fourth dimensional where I can adjust time, you see the way they move is also very cell-like, like they squish into each other and stuff like that. And it's very useful for working with organic stuff, like skin has a very Voronoi-like pattern, leather as well. It's just a very useful tool to have. I thought Blender crashed for a second there. That would have been hilarious. Anyways, getting back to the disco room here. These lights and this disco ball I made for the Fieldy animation, which I will be talking about soon because it's another animation I'm very proud of. But this room I made specifically for this animation, but I have since used it in at least one other one. I think I might have used it in two. I know for sure that Welcome Back to Groove Grumps was in this room. So yeah, the next one is, this is the Frake joke. I don't watch Star Trek, so I just said that on screen in text that I don't watch Star Trek. I don't know what this joke would be. The next one, this one's a little bit of a stretch, but Aaron says, opaque this. And so I interpreted that as Eggman in the shower, and you can't see him because the window is fogged up or not. It's opaque. You can't see through it. Sorry, I spelled it wrong. I can pretty much only hear you. I'm watching on your phone. That's all right. It doesn't really matter. You're not going to use Voronoi in most of your day-to-day life anyways. But it's funny you mentioned that because the pattern on this door is also a Voronoi texture. I could have done a little bit better at conveying this, but I was going for that kind of like shattered glass aesthetic that you might see on some of the some shower doors, but it doesn't really come out that way in retrospect. The tile also is not like it kind of makes it look like it's like a public pool shower or something like that, like not a home shower. But other than that, I do really like the way this scene plays out with Eggman wearing the little head cap and peeking out from around the corner. I think that's funny. This one, I've used this set many times. This is my like crypt or dungeon set. I've used it a couple times. I've also used this coffin a couple times, which is weird. But this one is the vampire joke. He says, "Stake this." He pulls out a stake from behind his back and stabs a hidden vampire that you don't actually see because it doesn't look like a vampire. This one is just, it uses the couch that I use for everything. Nothing too special about that. I cut this joke out. This is the forsake this because I couldn't really think of how I could use it. But I cut it out of the final animation. This is the coffee cup break this. I used a glass shatter and a cat sound effect in the animation, and I think it was hilarious. And then this wrestling ring or boxing ring, I also use an additional time in a future animation. I think I'll be talking about that one as well. And I think that's pretty much everything. Like, he pulls out a sign, but it's just like a couple squares and some texture, so nothing too special. Yeah, so unless there are any questions about this one, I will move on to the next animation, which will be this one here. Again, not in any specific order, just whatever I feel like talking about. All right, so this one is a fun one. This one is very fun, and it kind of blew up when I posted it. Let me just go back and make sure I get my dates and my numbers correct. This one was May 30th. So this one right now has over 2,000 views. It's at 2,300 views, and actually the video I posted with it, which is sort of an endless loop of it, was also it's kind of in the same vein as this. It's Dan running down a hallway and he's being chased by Spoiler Owl, or the tutorial character from Link's Awakening. So once again, the textures have to load in here, and once again, we're missing a texture for Dan's face here because this is an older file. So let me just go and find that so it's not super distracting. Probably could have done this beforehand, but that's okay. There we go. All right, so there's a lot going on in this scene. I'm going to play the animation back so you can see what's going on. I will hop into the camera and turn off all the unnecessary stuff, and we will watch this.
Stop! Stop running!
So very short. I do make sure that the final frame here leads into the first frame here because it is an endless loop. If I keep letting it play out,
Stop running!
It does loop. You can play front to back. Unfortunately, YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, they do introduce a little bit of delay between stopping and starting. So it's not an exact loop on those sites, but the file is technically loopable. And that's where I got the idea to do the looping animation. So what's going on here? This started out as just one segment of this hallway. So this is actually just a bunch of things copy pasted in a row. I could have used an array modifier to do that, but I didn't because I'm a fool. Back here, to give the illusion that it's like endless, it's just this plane that I have stretched out. I pulled the face back and then I made it a little smaller, and that gives it kind of the look that it just keeps going on forever. I know it's not technically correct because there are light sources, but it doesn't really matter if it achieves that effect. So it does, so it works. These paintings, it's just a simple noise texture. The same with these marble columns. It's just a simple noise texture that I've applied to the whole thing. I was trying to go for like a marble aesthetic. It doesn't really come off like that, but that's fine. You might recognize these torches from the last animation, and that's because they are the exact same model. Once again, that's one of the biggest things with 3D animation is once you've made an asset, you are free to use it wherever you see fit. And you'll see a lot of that in my work. I do use a lot of assets that I've made before. Dan's run was very simple. It's one of the only things that I practiced at when I was in school for game design. You do a lot of run cycles, and so I knew it was something I was going to have to do eventually with these animations. And it's not my greatest one, but it does, it does convey the urgency in the scene. Dan doesn't really talk in this situation, so there is no facial animation. There's no lip sync or anything like that. The bird is one of my favorites. A favorite Zelda Grumps character, which makes me ask, are you officially a Grump or a freelance animator, or what specifically? So I'm not technically either, because to be freelance means I'm being paid for my work. I am just a Game Grumps enthusiast who was looking for something to do to pass the time. And so I started animating every day. I take that day's audio and I animate something with it. And this is animation, not this one specifically, but I have hit 100. That is 100 same day animations. And so I'm celebrating by explaining how I made some of my previous ones. But I am not an official Grump, if only. This one right here, this owl right here is an interesting little thing to add to the scene because it is hand-drawn. It is not a model like everything else. It is hand-drawn. So if I switch over to my dope sheet, I can show you the individual frames. So I believe there's only 3 or so frames involved in his flap. So there's him with his wings up and he's elevated. Then there's him with his wings a little bit higher up and he's lower. There's him flapping his wings down and he's raised a little bit. And then there's the original frame. So you just need those couple frames to convey the flapping motion.
Stop! Stop running!
And I think it's pretty convincing. I could have done a little bit better, but this is still quite early on in me experimenting with hand-drawn animation. The lip sync is barely existing. It's pretty much just mouth closed and mouth open. There's no flaps or anything like that. But that's fine. Again, it doesn't really need to convey anything beyond that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Aside from, again, the hallway is the thing that's moving, not Dan and the camera.
Stop running!
It's just a lot easier
Stop
if the
running!
camera moves as little as possible. That way, you have more freedom to move things around in the scene. If the camera is constantly moving, you have to move objects with it if they have to be stationary. Like Dan in this situation. Dan does not move from this spot. So that's pretty much it for this animation. Time to move on to the next one. So this is Running Dan. So this one is a little bit more recent. Let me find the date for this one. So Running Dan was July 27th. So just a couple months ago, or just a month ago, sorry. This one is currently at 280 views, which is not stellar, but it is one of my favorite ones. Once again, we're looking at a running animation here, this time on both characters. So let me just hit play and we can watch that. As soon as the textures load in. You'll notice that the background isn't actually present because I added that in after the fact in my video editing software. Dan head. I think Aaron's shirt. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here we go.
Oh my god, I
Hold
caught
on,
up.
there's a car coming.
I fucking caught up.
Who gives a shit?
I give a shit, clearly.
Yeah, you give way too many shits. I wasn't even paying attention.
Well, that's why you were doing so good. You were nonchalantly just. I was putting too much effort into it. I don't know. Oh, now you're ahead again.
Who cares?
I do.
Okay, so again, a lot going on. So let's break it down very simply. First things first. This is another run animation. I did the run with one character, and then I literally just copy pasted onto the other one, changed the timing a little bit so that they're not exactly in sync. But it is the exact same run animation between the two. And it's easy. You wouldn't ideally do this in like a movie or anything, but you know, we're not making cinema here. Next, I modeled this little headband for Dan. I know technically Dan does not sweat. He doesn't have active sweat glands, but it just added to the scene, so it I thought it was funny. It doesn't really matter. It looks like it's like going into the geometry here, but that's just because this is the pre-smoothed object. So if I go over here and turn up the smoothing, this is what the headband would actually look like if I were to render it. Just something to look out for. I don't think I actually explained his face changing. It's happened a couple times, but if I skip to right here, to transition from here to here, where his eyes are, the wide and strained, you add a blink, and that's how you get a more natural change in expression, like that. Is that a fact? Does Dan not actually have active sweat glands? I believe that is a fact. He has told a story about how he passed out from heat stroke because he does not have active sweat glands. I can't remember what playthrough it was in. It might have been Mario Sunshine, but I think that is pretty commonly known. I have drawn him or animated him with sweat in the past. Again, I understand that it's not accurate. It's just how it helps the scene better. Where was I? Oh yeah, so just like in the previous animation, in this one, the camera and the characters are mostly stationary. It is the road that is moving. So you see, if I move the timeline here, it's the road that is changing position. And once again, that's just to make staging a little bit easier for me. Although Aaron does move, if I grab his little control circle here, he moves from back here to up here next to Dan, and then he slowly drifts backwards as he's quote unquote losing to him. And again, with them being stationary, this is a lot easier. If they were moving, it would be a little bit harder to get that spacing correct. There's also a car that drives by. It drives by twice, which I have been told is kind of sloppy. I could have changed the color between them, but you know what? It is what it is. So the car starts back here, drives past, and there's the little horn sound effect from the actual game itself. And then it pops back up here and drives past them one more time. And that's just to give the scene a little bit more life, as it were, since there's no pedestrians, no other traffic, no fire hydrants, anything like that, which I could have added. I just didn't. The road is pretty much all procedural. If I click on this object here and I head over to shading, you'll see it is switch over to render here. The road is this noise texture right here. If I feed that into the base color, you'll see what it looks like normally. Takes a second there. So this is what the noise texture looks like as raw data. And then I feed it into this color RAM, which lets me crunch the values and bring it down so that just these like little pebbly shapes come through as gray, while the rest is the black tarmac, or the black road. And I feel like it's a pretty convincing effect. I have used it before in other stuff. So I use it again in this one. I would never have known that make the road run, not the character, is a thing. It's so neat. Yeah, it is a little bit of a cheaty move, but it's pretty common. Actually, in game design, just in general, the way that run cycles will work is you do the run cycle standing still, and then you move the character control as a whole instead of the character itself. So that's actually what's happening here with Aaron. If I get rid of the road, right? If I make the road disappear, I can even make Dan go away. Aaron is running in place,
Oh my god, I
Hold
caught
on,
up.
there's a car coming.
and it's
caught
the
up.
circle that
Gives
moves.
shit.
I give a
Not him.
shit, clearly.
So that's just another way to convey motion. I think that's pretty much it for this. Aside from I used Krita to design a background. So this is just the simple background I whipped up in Krita, and then in my video editing software, DaVinci Resolve, I pan from one side to the other, and there's like a little bit of pitching so that it looks like it's three-dimensional, and that's how I get that effect. So moving on, let me just move this aside. The next is one of my favorites, actually. I spent a long time working on this one, and I'm vamping so I can get to opening the file. Here we go. All right, so this is one of the first hand-drawn animations that I'm going to be talking about. Once again, the background was added in after the fact. Let me just the background was added in after the fact. It's this background right here, once again, that I whipped up in Krita, and then I believe I Gaussian blurred it just so that it's a little out of focus. But this is actually, I believe, one of the first times I used quote-unquote original characters. So they're not Dan, they're not Aaron, they're not any character from a game. They are actual character designs that I came up with, so I'm pretty proud of that. Most of the animation is in the guy on the right. The woman doesn't have much aside from blinking and lip flaps, but I will shut up and let you watch.
Hey, yeah, I was the animator of the rope that gets untied in Grim Legends.
So,
Do you want to fuck me or what?
So this is still relatively early on in my my pursuit of getting better at hand-drawn animation, but I feel like it's one of my better ones. I have gotten better at conveying motion. There's a couple frames of the guy that I feel like are a little off, like this one right here. The face is in a different position than it should be. Same as this one right here. Like his face subtly shifts down, and it's a little jarring if you know what you're looking for. Yeah, you can see right there. So I have gotten better, but it's still a very good effort. I'll explain how I go about doing my hand-drawn animations in a second. Let me just find the correct date and number of views. This was posted July 14th, and it's currently sitting at 380 views. So a little bit better than the last one. Yeah, so my process for hand-drawn animation, let me just is I planned out, I have this stick figure in the background. Let me just turn off all the guys' frames. I have this stick figure that is generally making the pose that I wanted to convey. And so I do that for the whole animation.
Hey, yeah, I was the animator of the rope that gets untied in Grim Legends.
So,
Do you want to fuck me or what?
So once I have that guide, I go in and I draw what are called your keyframes, right? So this is the keyframe, and then I believe right here is a keyframe and stuff like that. And once you have, two frames that you have to blend between, that's where you can actually go in and draw what are called the in-between frames. So this one right here would be in between this frame and this frame. Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong timeline. Guy Phil. Okay, so this is the keyframe. This is the in between frame. This is a keyframe. So you start with this frame and this frame, and then you draw this frame between them, and that's how you convey motion.
Hey, yeah.
So he goes from the cup up here to the cup down here, and your brain fills in the gaps because of this frame here. And you pretty much just do that for each keyframe. So this is a keyframe, and this is a keyframe, and you draw this in between them. One thing that really helps is onion skinning. It's not a feature that's unique to Blender. Pretty much every animation software has it. But the green outline here is the frame that comes before. The blue outline is the frame that comes after. So if you make a keyframe here, you can see what came before, you can see what came after, and then you just draw what should be in between, right? So this is where his nose will be, this is where his nose was, so this is where his nose is, that kind of thing. So you go through each of the keyframes and you do that, and that's how you get your convincing motion. Now, that is pretty much how I do it now. I do kind of omit the planning stage, quote unquote, because just of the time constraints. This animation took me like 8 or 9 hours, and that planning phase was an embarrassing amount of that time. So I've pretty much stopped planning, quote unquote, just because I find it a little unnecessary for these exact animations. I pretty much just jump in right away and hope that it sticks, and it typically does. It's not the greatest technique to be working with, but it's what I do. But yeah, so that's the body's animation. That's his poses. But next we'll move on to how I do the lip sync. So let me just turn off the onion skinning for the fill and the lines here, and you can see again there's onion skinning of the mouth. I don't typically work with that on at the beginning. So let me just turn that off here. Pretty much what I do is I go frame by frame and I listen to what sound is being made. So he's saying hey, so it starts with his mouth in kind of an E shape. So he, and then E. So I'll draw those shapes. And I'll do that for every significant syllable that shows up. So again, frame by frame scrubbing, and then I draw what I hear. And then afterwards, after all the key mouth frames are made, I'll play it back. And if I see any spot that I feel like needs to be smoothed a bit, I'll add like an extra frame, that might not necessarily need to be there, but helps to convey the motion. And then once that's done,
yeah, I was the animator of the rope that gets untied in Grim Legends.
You have a pretty convincing lip flap. It's pretty much the same for the woman here. The only difference is you have her lipstick that you also have to plan. You don't have to plan around it, but you have to know where it's going. You draw the upper and lower parts of the lip. But other than that, it's pretty much the same process. If I skip over to where she talks. So it's the same thing. She's making a tongue clicking thing. So I open the mouth. The S sound here. So, and then, yeah. So it's pretty much the same thing. I added some blinking, just like how it works with the 3D animations that I did before. You just pretty much bring you squish it down a little bit, and then you bring it back up. The kind of difficult part is knowing how to space out the frames. I believe this is done with 2 frames of time running at 30 frames a second, and I feel like it comes out with a pretty smooth motion there. I could have done more frames. I could have done it for longer intervals, but this is what I settled on. Frame timing is something that I do think about a lot, especially in my more recent hand-drawn animations. There's a lot of time that just goes into how does this animation look if I shift this frame back a frame or something like that. But yeah, other than that, I render it out with the transparent background like this, and then I just slap the background I made behind it, and that's an animation. So moving on to the next one, this one is also hand-drawn. And this one also has some elements that were added after the fact. But this is actually the first animation with what I call my final Dan and Aaron designs in my hand-drawn style. So I've experimented a little bit before this with other looks. I didn't like them as much, so I just kept experimenting until I came across this one, which I love. I absolutely love it, and I've used it for pretty much everything since when it comes to hand-drawn animation with them. And it's actually very simple. Pretty much all I do is I draw a bean shape like this, and then I draw a circle for the head, and then I draw their respective hair. So Aaron's has his little swoop like this, right? And then he has like his little spike at the front, and then I draw the arms and legs, and it's extremely simple, which means I can do it pretty quickly, and it looks pretty good, at least in my opinion as well. So with this one, kind of the same principles apply as the last hand drawn. You have your keyframes, so this frame here and this frame here for Dan, and then you just have to blend between the two, and that's done with this frame here. So we go from here to here, and it's this frame that does the blending between them. I don't believe Aaron moves in this at all, which significantly cut back on how much work I had to do. But this was still quite early on. Oh, I should probably look up when it was. Right here. So this one was May 22nd. So this is very, very early on in me doing hand-drawn animation. Again, this is the first one where these designs showed up. And this animation got 1,600 views. I'm very proud of that one because, again, this is one of my favorite ones. I'll show you, there are elements that I added in after the fact with my video editing software that I drew. I'm very proud of those, so I'll show you that in a bit. But just finishing off what we have here, there's the mouth flaps. Again, it's pretty much the same thing. I go frame by frame, and I make the shape that I think would be made there by that sound. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to hit play on this. Probably would be nice. Is there no sound? I don't think there's sound. Okay. Well, we will. Let's just do
Yes,
that.
of course we understand. You want us to take these weapons that you, a bunch of squirrels, built, go out and fight the wasps, and especially kill the double agent squirrel that's in the robot wasp. What the fuck did I miss?
So yeah, that's the final animation. Again, I took these, I rendered it with a transparent background, and then I put it together in my video editing software. Those items on the list, I drew those in Krita, so that's not done in Blender. They were done in Krita. I'm pretty proud of them as well. This is the robotic bee drill that I drew. I thought it was the funnier of the items on that list. But yeah, like the squirrel and the weapons, they were all drawn outside of Blender and then put together in the software. And actually, I believe...
Yes, of course we understand.
The font, yes. So this is BD Cartoon Shoutout, I think is what the font is called. And that's what's known as the Game Grumps font. It's the font that they use for a lot of their official stuff. So yeah, moving on to the next one. Ooh, this is a fun one. So this is pretty recent as well. This is from, I believe, I forget what the game was called, something Stanley. But you'll see there's the appearance of this boxing ring again, and I feel like it's in a more appropriate situation because they are indeed boxing. So let me hop over to camera, and I'll turn off the unnecessary stuff, and we can watch the animation.
Power of my fist!
Fist of fury. I'm punching you.
Gotcha!
So if you watched the original animation as I posted, let me grab the date. July 23rd with 200 views. If you watch the original animation as I posted it, there are actually sound effects that I added in, sound effects of Dan punching Aaron's gloves and sound effects for Aaron punching Dan in the face. I added that in after the fact in my video editing software. These gloves I whipped up just like in a couple minutes as I was making the animation. They have not appeared in any animations since. They have not appeared in any animations before, but it's pretty much just a cube that I subdivided and then extruded out just to get that shape. So they're very simple, and then I smooth it with a smoothing modifier. Very simple, and then you just pop them on his hands, and it's a very convincing effect. And actually, it's a lot better because you don't have to animate the fingers. For this, I tried to be pretty accurate in their stances. Dan is left-handed, so I gave him a left-handed stance. Aaron, I believe, is right-handed, so he's facing the opposite way.
Power of my fist.
Fist of fury.
When you punch, you're supposed to use your other hand to guard your face. So I was trying to do that with Dan. When he throws his hook and his jab, he does cover his face. And Aaron blocks them pretty easily because he doesn't put a lot of power into them.
I'm punching you.
And Aaron goes for the knockout. You're supposed to hit the jaw because you get this kind of bell effect that can it reverberates through your body and it stuns you a bit. And when Aaron connects, I do actually change Dan's expression. So he closes his eyes. The mouth actually shifts from center, shifts over to the left here, or to the right, I guess. And then he's sent flying. He's got a shocked look on his face right there. He hits the floor of the ring. And then when you hit the floor, you kind of have this, because you've got all this momentum. When you hit the floor, you kind of spring back a little bit. You've got that secondary animation. His hands hit the floor, they get hit up a little bit, and then he settles into his lying down pose. So I believe, all things considered, that him falling is one of my better animation elements.
My fist.
Fist of fury. I'm punching you.
Gotcha. Power of my.
So I'm very proud of this one. Again, I just I rendered this with transparency, and then I believe I just put like I actually made a background for it. So this is the background of the boxing ring, like in the original Eggman animation. So I just rendered this, and then I popped it in the back there. Yeah, and then the sound effects are pretty silly.
Power of my fist.
Fist of fury. I'm punching you.
Gotcha.
They were just a goofy sound that I thought would be funny to add, so I added them. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this specific animation, unless there are any other questions. But this next one, this is a biggie. And you might already be able to tell what it is. Let me just see if I can find it. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. This is Fieldy. So this was Sonic Adventure, where Dan finally gets his sweet revenge for all the schoolyard tricks that Aaron pulls on him. This was May 13th, the same day that the episode came out that this audio is from. But it is a very proud moment for all. And it's a very proud moment for me because, to my knowledge, I do try to keep up on this. I am still, all these months later, I'm still the only animator to have animated this moment, which is great. The animation came out again May 13th. It's almost at 20,000 views, which is like one of my highest viewed videos. This is the first one I saw. Yeah. Well, I mean, makes sense. It's one of my most viewed videos. And again, because this is missing this is missing a texture, so that's why everything looks purple like this. Let me see if I can find it. Christmas Post Studio. Uh, okay, this should fix it. Okay, and then Dan's face. Again, because this is an older animation, so it was from my old computer. This is the problem with having so many animations is you have a lot of files that you have to swim through. I was probably half those views. I watched that one over and over, laughing my butt off. Clearly, I'm a highbrow comedy enjoyer. Yeah, it's a good one. I do not blame you. I go back and listen to my animations on loop constantly. There's just something so satisfying about these clips and the jokes that they make. You're in shirt. There we go. All right, so there's not much to this one. Again, it's the same room set that I use all the time. These are the lights that I mentioned from the Eggman's Adventure. These ones were made for this animation. Same with the disco ball. These curtains, these banners are actually like one of my most proud things, because before this I hadn't really had much experience with cloth simulation, but you see, well, let's watch the animation first and then I'll talk about it a bit.
Anyway, pausing.
Wait, did you try Fieldy?
Ladies and gentlemen,
What is Fieldy?
we got him.
Fieldy's nuts, dude! Yeah! Woo! All right, pause the episode.
So as you saw, these banners unfurl in the background like that. It had been the first time I'd ever worked with cloth simulation, and I think it came out like immaculate. It's so good. They move and unfurl in very convincing ways. I could have just copy pasted them, but these are actually 3 individual cloth sims, I believe. I think they are each simulated their own way, so they're slightly unique. The sign, I have been told that I should have done Danny Wins on one of them, and that is a good idea. I should have done that, but hindsight's 2020. Hey, congrats on 100 vids. That's amazing for such a short amount of time. Thank you. It's 100 days, so it's not that short. It's almost a fourth of a year. But I appreciate the congrats, man. It's a big moment for me. It's a lot of time. I've actually put all these animations back to back from day one, and I believe right now I'm at 24 minutes and 24 seconds. So that's every animation front to back is almost 25 minutes long, which is wild to me. But yeah, so the banners unfurl. The lights are changing color. That's just handled with keyframes here. You can see the color shifts because I go in and I set what color they have to be. The disco ball spins, like any good disco ball. And everything all together looks pretty good. I rendered this one with freestyle. That's how I do my outlines. So if I hit render here, just needs to create the freestyle map here. The disco ball I feel like comes out the best because of the lines that I made it so that it renders it like this. I went in and I extruded all these faces, so these are actually individually extruded, and that's how I was able to get these lines here. But yeah, the whole thing is it comes together really well, and I'm very proud of it. Oh, I didn't even talk about Dan jumping off the couch and stuff like that. This one, this is the first time I had done any kind of thing. Like if you go back and watch the CG animations from before this, there's very little actual movement from the characters. But Dan coming up onto the couch and then jumping off of it. That it's the most dynamic they've ever been. And while it's, you know, I've done better before, it gets the job done. It gets the job done, and especially in motion, you can barely see any of the problems with it. So yeah, altogether, like one of my favorite animations. The next one, this one's a fun one. Let me just go and grab that. Choose your character. Okay, so this one is very interesting because the HDRI isn't loaded. Hold on. There we go. All right, so this one is this one's very fun. I started out by drawing what I thought each of the links sounded like. So let me play the animation for you, so you can, you know, you get the audio and you know what we're talking about here.
Splimp.
Swim.
Yeah.
I feel like we've used that one before.
You might be thinking of Squeef. Squackle.
Squackle. There we go. I like Squackle.
There's-
Squackle's good.
Squackle, it seems like he'd be like a direct descendant of Spoomples.
Oh yeah.
So what I did was I drew what I felt like each of those names would look like if they were actual links. I do understand that Spoomples was the Skyward Sword link and yada yada, but I felt like this is more representative of a Spoomples character. So I drew each of those. It took quite a long time, actually. I think maybe like 3 or 4 hours for all of them, which is, you know, whatever. And then I brought them into Blender as their own planes, and I built this set for them. So what I was trying to go for in the final animation, let me actually bring that up.
Splimp.
Swim.
Yeah.
I feel like we've used that one before.
What I was trying to go for here is this kind of character select screen where you have the UI, you know, the arrows to move to the next one. You have the name. The carousel kind of layout that we have here is one that I used quite a lot in game design school. But pretty much I have this empty object here that each of the characters are connected to, and I can rotate all of them at once, and then just individually you rotate them on their own so that they're facing the camera, because again, they are flat planes. There's no depth to them, so you have to make sure that they're facing the camera in order to make them look like characters. I love the way that the reflection in the water looks. And this is just like a plane that I've stretched out and given this background here. And I believe it's just given like some metallic and specular shine, and then turn the roughness down. And that's how you get this, like, it's almost mirror-like, but there's like very there's a lot of diffusing, so it's just blurred enough. But you see, if you look here, there's actually like waves propagating through it, and that's handled with a wave modifier that I've put on it, and I feel like that gives it a lot more dramatic of an effect. I feel like it comes across a lot better. These structures in the back, it's just simple cubes that I've beveled and then arranged in a certain way, again, just to give this more life. And then finally, the music for this animation, I made myself. I arranged it myself. I feel like it's pretty good for menu music. Like that's what I was going for, was menu music. And I think it gets the job done. I did put out a looping version on my YouTube channel. I should probably look up how long ago that was. So this animation was posted May 26th. It currently has almost 1,200 views, and the loop was posted the same day. It's just called Choose Your Character Loop if you want to check it out yourself. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this animation. Again, one that I'm really proud of. This next one is another hand-drawn animation. Go. Yeah, so this one, this one's notable because this is the first time I had done any kind of smear frame, any kind of frame that implied motion, and I think it came out really good because of it. So let me just shut up so you can watch it.
Meow!
All right, so this one you might recognize. This was one of the Bowser's Fury episodes. Let me just go back. July 28th. So this was posted July 28th with almost 300 views. This, I believe, I can point out the exact shot. They just unlocked the next island, and the camera pans past the cat mountain thing, and Dan is like, he's singing all angelically, and Aaron interrupts him because the cat mountain has a very funny face. So I took that as, Dan's just relaxing, and then he breaks out into song, and then the cat has to come in and join the party. So once again, this is pretty much just you get the keyframe and then you draw the interpolation between them, but with a little bit of added spice, as it were, because you can see here, this is the in-between frame, and then this is the overextension frame, and then this is the keyframe. And what that allows me to do is give stuff like hair, which would trail behind you, a lot more bounciness and a lot more life. So this kind of overextension frame is a form of secondary animation, and it gives the hair a lot more personality. So you see in motion, it kind of springs back, and I feel like it's most convincing right here. So there's the keyframe, and then there's this keyframe right here, and then there's the two interpolation frames. So this is him pulling his hair back, pulling his head up, and the hair kind of wants to remain in place. And then here, since the hair already has momentum, it whips back, it whips up, and then finally it comes and settles down, and it creates this this effect here. The cat doesn't really have this overextension frame, but the cat goes from this keyframe to this interpolation frame to this smear frame, where you can see that the face is, kind of stretched out, and it's given that motion, and then another keyframe. So that's pretty much all there was to this animation. This set, quote unquote, it's not really a set, it's just like a background I drew for it. I really like how this comes out. I might use it again in the future, but once again, this isn't anything specific. It's very nondescript, generic kind of thing, and that's just because I wanted something to give the scene more life. All right, so moving on to the last animation that I wanted to talk about. This is actually the most recent one of all these animations. It was from a Doki Doki Literature Club Plus episode, and that's this one right here. Now the camera is aligned vertically because I did use this scene to make a vertical version. There is a horizontal version that I can play. I just don't have the camera set up for it right now. Just do that. So I'll pull up.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I hate it.
Natsuki, shut up.
So that's the horizontal version, but it's essentially the same thing, just with Aaron and Dan kind of moved over a little bit. But yeah, playing off of the last hand-drawn animation, this one treats hair in very much the same way. Sorry, let me just make sure we get the date correct. This one was posted twice on August 12th. The horizontal version has 104 views. The shorts version has 86. Excuse me. So this animation treats hair in very much the same way. So you see when Natsuki shifts her head, we go from keyframe to smear frame to an additional smear frame an overextension frame, and then finally the keyframe. Now, the reason I gave this one 2 smears is because a motion as fluid as turning your head, it does need to be conveyed in quite a few more frames. But you'll see these last 3, they actually have the same overall head shape, and that's because they have settled into the same pose. So essentially what we have here is a keyframe, a smear frame, and then these 3 just deal with the hair. And I do that the same way, I believe, with Sayori, but we'll get to her in a sec. With this one, I could have done a little bit better with the smear, because you see, if I go from this frame to this frame, a lot of the features of her hair are kind of missing in the smear. So, for example, up here, her hair kind of comes up and out. You can see if you follow this, it goes up and out. Whereas over here, there's just kind of a bunch of hair in the middle for no reason. And then the hair comes down here. I could have done a better job of connecting the two, but I didn't. I can kind of forgive myself because, again, this is only on for two or 3 frames. So it's barely noticeable in motion. But it is a little sloppy and I could have done it better. With the overextension, I feel like I could have actually done a little bit more. Like, it's not as drastically different from this frame. But I feel like the reason it works is because of how subtle it is. It just kind of it blows forward and then back, but it doesn't move too much. Moving down to the hands, we have her kind of nervously poking her fingers like this. I feel like this comes out pretty well, even with the limited animation. It is pretty much just 2 frames. The hands kind of out, hands kind of in, and then it just swaps between the 2. But to go from this keyframe to this keyframe, I have this really ugly in-between animation. Again, could have done this better, but if I'm being honest, it doesn't really matter because the focus is not going to be down here anyways. It's going to be up here. So in motion, if you focus on the head, it does its job. I could have done some secondary animation where she moves her arm up and down while gripping onto her other arm, but I didn't, so it is what it is. I say that a lot in animation, if you can't tell. So over here, she just lowers her head and shifts her eyes over so that she can be looking more at Sayori's arm here. It's a little jarring, especially because it's not, there's no new frames drawn. I just shift the head down a little bit. I could have done that a little bit better. I could have even like rotated the head a little bit, but once again, it is what it is. Now moving on to Sayori, the first thing we see of her is her arm that comes out of nowhere. So for this one, this frame with nothing on it, this acts as a keyframe, and then this frame here with her hand on the shoulder, that's the second keyframe. So you just have to blend between. So I started by drawing this, but when I played it back, it didn't look as smooth as I wanted it to be. So I treated this essentially as a keyframe, and then I added in between frames for that, and then that ended up getting the motion that I was looking for. Once again, it's a little sloppy, but that's not really where your focus is going to be. So if you watch it back with your focus on her head, again, it gets the job done. Then the camera switches, and we are now kind of in Natsuki's perspective. We're looking at Sayori. Her hand is up. I didn't really do a great job of demonstrating that through perspective. I could have, the shoulder should be different and stuff like that. I also missed her collar, which is kind of embarrassing, and her jacket should be open, whereas you can see it's kind of tapering to being closed, and that's just wrong because she wears her jacket open in all of her character sprites. But I missed it, and it is what it is. Finally, she turns her head to face Natsuki. So we go from this keyframe to this keyframe, and then we have the in-between, which loses a lot of detail in the hair. I must have missed that. but they're like, we're missing a lot of the hair strands and all the detail that I had before. And then we go from this in between frame to I guess this is supposed to be like the hair kind of lingering back, but since it's like kind of dead on, it doesn't really look like it. I could have done a better job at representing that. But then this is the hair overextending, and then the hair settling down. This one is a lot more subtle because her head doesn't move quite as far as Natsuki's does.
Shut up!
But I still feel like it's pretty convincing overall. And then just in the background, we go from Aaron and Dan in kind of like a neutral position to busting a gut at the hilarity of the situation. But that's pretty much it. I rendered this with transparency once again, and I gave it backgrounds. I gave them backgrounds in the editing software. Just very simple, like flat colors.
I don't know what's wrong
as
with
you can
me.
see here.
I hate it. Natsuki, shut up!
And yeah, so that's pretty much all I had prepared. Unless there are any questions or anyone wants to see any animations specifically, that's pretty much all I wanted to do today. Just once again, I'm very happy at my progress. I've learned a lot doing all these animations. I'm extremely happy with all the community engagement. Everyone liking the videos and commenting on them. I'm getting a lot more attention on platforms that I didn't even think would work for me. Like my TikTok is doing pretty well. I'm getting a lot of attention on Twitter as well. Not just for my Game Grumps stuff, but my Jax Films animations as well. Very recently, Jax Films himself liked and commented on my Blender tutorial, and that was a great experience. So once again, thank you all for watching and enjoying. And if you have any questions, feel free to fire them now. You have TikTok? I do have TikTok. You should be able to see just on the scrolling text at the bottom there, right on the right. It's at Aaron G is me. Yeah, it's pretty much the same stuff I post on YouTube, just vertically. But if you want to follow me on TikTok, go ahead. I'm probably not going to post any TikTok specific stuff. But things change. I might in the future. I will switch the music back on now so that we have something in the background in case anyone has any questions. Okay, well, it looks like there are no questions that anyone has. So I hope you enjoyed. I am Aaron G is me, and thank you for watching and liking. And I'll see you later.